How did Stan Lee create Marvel? Stan Lee was done with comic books. He told his wife Joan, "We're writing nonsense. It's a stupid business for a grown-up to be in." Big man Stan was apprehensive about the medium's future after riding the early success of comic books. He wished to write more intricate stories that adults could respond to. So Lee decided to write one last story after speaking with his wife. He created the Fantastic Four with characters that were founded in reality, situations that channeled Cold War tensions, and a narrative informed by popular science fiction. This was exactly the kind of story Lee would have enjoyed. He decided that if it succeeded, he would continue with comics for a little longer. We all know how this story ended. It wasn't long ago that Iron Man and Black Widow's journey made us cry, and Captain America's Avengers Assemble gave us goosebumps. Being recognized by your characters is the greatest achievement for any creator, and when it comes to Marvel, people think of Spider-Man before they think of Stan Lee. So how did Stan Lee create this extensive universe revolutionizing entertainment worldwide? Family life and impact on popular culture. Stanley Martin Lieber was born in New York City in 1922. Between 1875 and 1924, his parents were among the 2.7 million Jewish immigrants to the United States. Lee vividly recalled his parents battling over their financial troubles as a child during the harsh post-World War I years and the early years of the Great Depression. The Chase and Sanborn Hour, a Sunday night NBC radio broadcast, provided a brief relief from the disappointment. Celia, Lee's mother, provided further distractions by encouraging reading, education, and creativity at a period when many other families were putting their children to work. Lee enjoyed reading, writing, and drawing, but comic books were a new medium at the time. He did find himself captivated by Errol Flynn's action movies and Tarzan movie serials, and read comic strips in newspapers. Seeing storylines evolve on the big screen surely planted seeds for content that Lee would later create. The impact of cinema serials on the evolution of comics in general, and Lee's writing in particular, is clear. Lee's work will go on to feature short and punchy adventure stories, cliffhanger plots, and powerful heroes. The creation of Stan Lee. Lee's family struggled throughout the 1930s, with unemployment averaging 19%. Stan decided to support his family by working. He was deeply influenced by his father's long struggle to find a permanent job, and he would always put work and career over anything else. Lee's strong work ethic paid off when he graduated from high school and secured a position as an assistant to Captain America creators Joe Simon and Jack Kirby at Timely Comics. Under the direction of publisher Martin Goodman, Simon and Kirby launched the newly branded Marvel Comics into the public, selling nearly 1 million copies of the debut issue of Captain America, which featured the hero punching Adolf Hitler on an iconic cover. This job helped Lee observe the industry in action, develop opinions about how it works, and determine which direction he should take. Lee's famous pen name was introduced to the public when Simon and Kirby let him write a story for Captain America Comics number 3. According to legend, Lee wished to keep his true name hidden for a future novel. In an era when the comics industry demanded frequent content, Lee's stories led to further opportunities. As he rose through the ranks, he began producing longer pieces and editing the work of other writers. Stanley Lieber was still a teenager when he became Stan Lee, a rising star in the comics industry. His good fortune continued after an unexpected turn of events that resulted in Simon and Kirby's dismissal and Lee's promotion to head of Goodman's comic division. Time in the Army and more struggle. Lee participated in the United States Army Signal Corps, focused on communications, stayed deployed in the United States, and continued to improve his writing skills during World War II. While Lee finished his Army duty, including a term in the training film division where Frank Capra was also working, Marvel hired someone to stand in for him. Lee developed his writing talents there by working on scripts and instruction manuals, and editing and designing advertising posters. During this period, Lee recognized the media's power to entertain and inform audiences. Even as audiences shifted away from superheroes and toward pulp crime stories, westerns, and female-centered genres like romance, comics grew in popularity in the post-war years. To make matters worse, an anti-comics movement was gaining traction. Lee struggled to stay afloat in the wake of this cultural turmoil and steep sales loss that left many in the comics industry looking for new alternatives. After a string of failed ventures, He enlisted the help of other prominent comics creators like Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby to explore new story concepts. Success. Lee had plans to reintroduce comics to the superhero genre, beginning with a vision of cosmic rays that would eventually become part of the Fantastic Four. A strong emphasis on realism characterized Lee's new approach to superhero stories. He sought to make the unreal real for him. Putting an earthly superhero into a familiar setting was the key to creating classic pulp fiction. Lee's stories combine the spectacular with the mundane by using familiar characters and contemporary events. While Lee and his colleague Jack Kirby were unsure if the Fantastic Four would connect with readers, they took a bet on their new concept and were rewarded with booming sales. This was a pivotal point in the industry. Martin Goodman, Lee's publisher, was known for jumping on every prospective trend. With the Fantastic Four's success, Lee was able to rationalize devoting more time to superheroes. His next big contribution to the genre, again in collaboration with Ditko, was Spider-Man, who debuted in 1962. While Goodman objected to the character's name and the impossibility of a teenage superhero, Lee persisted, creating Thor, the Hulk, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and the X-Men to follow up on the hugely successful character. "You just don't stop when you're on a winning streak," Lee explained. The next stage for Lee was to improve Marvel's marketing, which he accomplished by inserting publishing updates, author bios, and industry gossip in the back of new comic books. Marvel's circulation increased from 18 million in 1961 to 32 million in 1965, thanks to Lee and his staff. Fan clubs sprang up, television execs began calling, and Lee appeared on The Dick Cavett Show. Lee's characters struck a chord with readers and drew in new followers daily. When cultural tensions in the 1960s were at an all-time high, Lee provided the world with comics that would change with the times. While some readers wanted to escape the difficult times, Lee thought it was his responsibility to use the comics for good. His work addressed issues such as war, peace, rebellion, and civil rights. Stan Lee transformed the industry by publishing The Amazing Spider-Man number 96, a 1971 story with a subplot involving a drug overdose. Even in anti-drug contexts, the Comics Code Authority had restrictions banning any reference to drugs. The CCA seal was constantly present on new issues from publishers, but Lee ignored it and focused on his message. The issue was a hit, and Marvel received a lot of positive feedback and freedom to explore grown-up themes. Entering Hollywood. Even with the new adult following that Lee cultivated, Marvel, like all comic book companies, saw a decline in popularity. By 1972, Lee had risen to the position of publisher at Marvel. Still, the comics market, particularly the market for superheroes, had reached a standstill, and he began exploring other sources of income at the end of the decade. This was Hollywood. Moving to Los Angeles from New York City promised a lot of new prospects. In the 1970s and 1980s, however, Lee had little success translating his creations to film and television, but he persevered, reinforced by the fact that he had become the eternal face of Marvel Comics. Fans mobbed him wherever he went, and despite mounting financial difficulties in New York, Lee and his happy smile continued to represent Marvel for the next decade. The rest of the story is what fans are familiar with today. Marvel's current series of successful films, TV shows, video games, and comic books. The films X-Men 2000 and Spider-Man 2002 brought a massive genre boom to set the path for Marvel's present mega franchise. Lee, like Alfred Hitchcock, appeared in every film starring Marvel characters, and he has become the face of both Marvel and comic fans at this point. Stan Lee's death was a dark day for the entire entertainment industry. Lee's story shows us how everyday people can become superheroes in real life. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, Creativersity, for more insights into the world of art and entertainment.